On my concern too, as I've mentioned before, is people who are given a cancer diagnosis and the 12 months, the prerequisite 12 months. What about the people that can't speak? I mean, there are many disabilities where you may be intellectually functioning, but you can't speak, you can't articulate. What happens to them? How do we know that how do we know completely that they're being heard, that their concerns are being heard, that they're actually not going to be killed against their will? And people with intellectual disabilities. I mean, the wider society seems to think that they would rather be dead than not be able to speak or be in a wheelchair or have an intellectual disability. There's a kind of a tacit acceptance by many people in society that they couldn't do it, but you can do it. You can do it. That we three here are living proof.
And there's lots of others out there.
And there's millions of us out there.
Yeah.
I actually had that point of view put to me on Q&A, ABC's Q&A. I was in the audience and asked a question about euthanasia. We're talking about 2011 now. And one of the people up on the panel stage actually said, well, if I was paralysed, I'd rather die.
I mean, there's every single person with a disability that I've ever met, even a woman who's very capable, but she was affected by thalidomide. I mean, we've all had people within our earshot and deliberately say, well, you'd top yourself, wouldn't you? You know? Yeah. As if we're not there. As if our life is not worth living. There's no safeguards in this bill for people like us. There's no safeguards at all. I mean, like when a parent kills a child with a disability rather than, rather than see them live or fend for themselves after they've gone. I mean, time and time again, I've seen it. Headlines saying that it's an act of love, but that child or that person has no choice. We don't know the fear that person has suffered while being murdered by the person that they love. That their life, that their hands, that this is their parent or this is their spouse, and they have decided that their life is not worth living without their support. So the narcissism that can become involved, that can be part of being a carer or a parent or a spouse of somebody with a disability. None of that has been discussed. They may say, well, I know that they wouldn't want to live with a colostomy. I know that they would rather die than suffer in pain, rather than saying, what can we do to alleviate these fears? What can we do to alleviate this pain? Why aren't we looking at better pain relief? Why aren't things like medical marijuana being considered more? Why isn't one of the nature's best painkillers being utilised, heroin, in a proper clinical form to alleviate really strong pain? Because there's so many things that need to be looked at, and it's not being looked at, and it's being put up before the Parliament by politicians. Now, I'm sorry, but I don't trust all politicians to have our best interests at heart, and I don't trust all doctors to have our best interests at heart. Nobody who has ever stood before a panel of doctors with their backsides hanging out in a hospital gown while they discuss your symptoms and don't see the person in front of them can ever really get that out of their minds and can ever really think that all doctors have their best interests at heart and don't see you as a set of symptoms. I don't want to,
See, I can understand the fear that people have.
Yeah.
Because I had it. I'm actually on record as saying before my accident, if I had an accident where my spinal cord was injured, I ended up with paraplegia or quadriplegia, I'd rather not survive the accident. I actually made that statement. Because that's what I believe. But when it happened, that's not what happened. I just wanted to live with it. Got on with life.
Yeah, and this is what I'm afraid of with this bill. There are no safeguards in it for us. Yeah, I mean, people.
So, you know, this is...
A lot of people take that 12 months if they're given proper pain relief. One of the biggest things that I've found with people, and I've known a lot of people who've had cancer and who've died of cancer, and people without cancer, one of their biggest fears is the pain. So if we could guarantee, I mean, obviously you can't guarantee with all cases, but if you could guarantee a good quality of pain relief for a start, you're giving people a reason to live. And that 12 months may be the good opportunity to reconnect with family, to do things that you would not ordinarily do. I mean, some people's bucket list is jumping out of a plane, but I think for the bulk of people that I know, their bucket list, they don't have a bucket list. What they want to do is they want to spend the time that they have left with their family, with their friends, you know, and it's a very simple bucket list for them. It's not about, you know, climbing the Eiffel Tower or jumping out of planes or going, you know, going to base camp at Mount Everest. It's about, you know, like it's about reconnecting with family. It's about you know, that can be a good death, you know, too, you know, without having to take the pill, without having to have the assisted suicide. Well, you utilise the 12 months in a positive way, because ultimately I think we all come to terms with the fact that we're going to die. I mean, we know that no matter what happens, something's going to get us eventually, and with a lot of people, it just it coalesces it all. It just, you know, it gives them a time and a reason to actually, you know, get their life in order, their life in order before they actually go. And people like Andrew Denton and Jane Caro I mean, they're sexy, you know. People will listen to them.
Yes.
They have a public voice. They're in the entertainment industry. Who wants to listen to us?
Yeah, there's certainly an imbalance in power there.
Yeah. I mean, here you have this highly articulate star like Andrew Denton, and he will get press mileage. He will get television interviews. But are we going to get that?
We're just waiting for Owen Jones to have his stuff.
Yeah. But we're not going to get that. I mean, I've actually seen, you know, like Q&A where they've done shows on disability without one single person on the panel with a disability. I mean, you know, people talk over us, around us, but never to us. And nobody ever looks into the eyes of people.
Make the assumptions.
Make the assumptions. And when they're talking to carers, the carer is front and centre, and this is not putting shit on carers, but nobody looks into the eyes of the person that they're caring for to see the anguish and the pain in their eyes. Nobody looks at that. Nobody sees them as a person. They see them as that person's millstone, as that person's burden. And if you hear that often enough, then maybe you're going to sit there and think, well, okay, I better go. I don't want to burden. They can go off and fly now and be free and be happy. the way I see it is that people like us should actually have been allowed to speak in Parliament about this, to address Parliament about
Well,
it.
there should have been a committee of inquiry.
Yeah.
Absolutely.